not want to upgrade the plan.
Hey.
You're live. Love this message. Hello, everyone. Awkward. Every live now. That's the
Hey.
usual beginning for every live show. I don't know. I'll repeat it so many times I will never get used to this. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Reading Across the Shelf. This time we are talking about LGBTQIA2S+ books and authors and representation in books. And I'm super excited to be joined by Sarah and by Ercy, and hopefully Raul will be joining us shortly as well.
Yeah.
And I thought I start off, not me, you can start off with a quick introduction so people know who you are.
Awesome.
Sarah, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Sarah from the channel faeryreads. I just created my channel, I think, about a month ago. So this is my first live stream, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, so excited. My name is Ercy. That's Jake over there in the comments. My channel is called Circe'sBooked. I just like talk about all different kinds of books and having these discussions and talking about everything that makes me passionate in life.
Books, always books.
Yes. I'm still waking up, but it's really early on the West Coast.
It is. We're just doing it for you out there, Jake.
I know.
Right now. We're doing it for you, Jake. Getting up early to talk about books. All right. Hi, Stacy.
Stacy.
Hi, Stacy. Okay, for you, Stacy, I would always get up early in the morning. Before we dive into the book, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about what happened yesterday, because eventually it fits into the same topic, and I thought it would be amiss if it's not being addressed. As you probably have heard in the news, who hasn't nowadays, Roe versus Wade was overturned, which means local governments or state governments now have to decide on abortions being legal or illegal in their states. And we've seen how many states are already going about saying, hey, it will be illegal very shortly. So believe us, we are angry. I know a lot of people are angry, and there's so many things we could talk about now, but we don't want to overtake this live show with this topic.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to make sure, though, that you go out there, do your research, read up what you can do, go out and vote, go out and protest peacefully, please. Go talk to your rep, call your rep, send them an email, make sure that they understand how important the right is to be allowed to have an abortion. And I put up some links here too. If you need help, there are some great nonprofit organizations that will continue to help and that will continue to provide advice and make sure that you get a safe abortion if you need one. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure you're okay. And if you're not, please use one of those sites to help and talk about it and get help. And then we just have to make sure that we get to the state where we were till yesterday and not go back hundreds of years into the Middle Ages.
It's just this whole idea of like pushing one's values onto other people, right? And we talked about these extremist views that to me make no sense, but to other people it makes perfect sense to them. But it's the fact that they have the power to infringe upon the rights of others. And me as a former, I used to teach history. One of the main things that we used to talk about all the time was about the Constitution and the fact that we have the right to pursue happiness and blah, 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 right? Freedoms and everything, right? Very first few lines of the Constitution. So long as it doesn't infringe upon the rights of others. So that is one of the main key things that people are ignoring right now in power, because they have these extremist views and they're pushing it onto other people. And it just boggles my mind that it's just, we can ignore one part. You're perfectly fine with one part and then completely ignore another part because it benefits other people that have that view. And you know what I mean? Maybe my right is to I don't know, drive my car upside down, right? Something's dumb, right? But me driving my car weird is going to infringe upon the safety and the rights of others to pursue their happiness, right? Like, I know it's a weird example. I'm waking up. But it's the fact that it's just infringing upon the rights of others, because it's not just abortion to kill babies for the whatever, because that's how people are interpreting it right now. It's healthcare. It's healthcare. Reproductive care is healthcare. And the fact that people are not people that are for life are not for healthcare blows my mind.
Well, and even further,
Blows
right?
my
It's
mind.
not pro-life, but then we're dealing with so many issues around poverty, around the cost for giving birth, around the cost for having a child.
Yeah.
What do you do if the child has a medical issue? What do you do if the mother has depression afterwards and cannot deal with the child, and then the child's life sucks afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many implications on that. And then the long-term or even bigger problem of that is when you start talking about, hey, we're now reversing decisions from the Supreme Court. What is next, right? They're already talking about, hey, let's reverse same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
Let's reverse like all of these things that make this country livable, right, for everyone, no matter who they love or no matter how they love. And it's just,
it just opens the window to all of this.
mind-boggling.
It's just an opening, you know, and it's
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous that Canada. I love how Canada is just like looking. I think the Daily Show made like a skit or like a thing about it where they were like, Canada sees what's happening here and they're making stuff to help their people. Like, like Canada saw the mass shooting that happened last month, and then they banned weapons. They banned guns. Seeing what happened here. This is the trial. The United States is a trial run.
For Canada making better decisions.
Yes.
An age maximum for political. Oh, there are so many issues from a political perspective. Agreed. I don't want an 80-year-old guy making decisions about what I can do or not do with my uterus. Like, first of all, yes, absolutely agree. And then this whole, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a whose stick is bigger, local government or federal government, and whom should make decisions. I mean, I'm sorry, it's bullshit. Okay. So, you know, as you see, we can go on for 3 hours now. That's exactly what I didn't want, but I wanted to address it. I wanted to make sure, you know, we talk about it. But let's talk about, I know this is an awkward, like from a very serious conversation over to let's talk books. At the end of the day, I mean, they relate together, right? If you think about it, it's about freedom of choosing how you want to live your life and what you want to make with your body, who you want to love, how you want to love. And that's why we want to talk about LGBTQ IA2+, 2S+ books, excuse me. And the importance of those books in the book realm, the importance of authors that align with that community being represented, the importance of those stories being represented in books so we can all be exposed to what is out there and how colorful, in this case, literally how colorful this world is with the rainbow representation. So first question for you. You decided to be on this show to talk about LGBTQ, and I keep it short for the sake of the live show, LGBTQ books. You decided to be on the show. So why is this topic important to you? Why do you like talking or reading books with that trope or from those authors? Whoever wants to start first.
Okay, I'll go first. I mean, I feel like naturally I pick up a lot of those books just because, like, growing up reading, I almost never came across that in any of the books I would pick up as a kid. And I mean, it's just people. It's just stories about real people, and people identify with that. So why shouldn't there be books about it? So I have a lot of books that I could talk about today. So that's why I was like, yes, I'm in on this.
So for me, it's a matter of, like you said, representation, right? As someone who doesn't identify under that umbrella, I feel like I'm still part of that community in terms of being an ally, because I have friends, I have family members, I have people close to me in my life who falls under that scope. And I think it's important to have that representation in literature, in TV and media, right? In order to humanize that experience, because at the end of the day, that's what it really is about. And that's why I really feel like books like this, books like this and books, under the majority of the things that we've been talking about or that you've been showing on your series, right? It's super important to talk about or to show that representation, because it humanizes those experiences, especially to those that may not even be aware of those experiences, right? You can, people live in their bubbles, and we can see they're making laws and everything and shaping society based on those views. But the second we start having representation in media and in society and in culture, the views start to shift, and the cultural, things in society and in everywhere, right? We start to have this shift in our mindsets. And I think having these books be so prominent and out there, I think it's just super important. And these are stories, these are real people, these are real stories, these are fun stories, these are even if it's fiction, right? It's just having that representation, giving people a chance to identify with those characters. I think it's super important. We all want to visualize ourselves in the books that we read because we relate to them. But for so long, these people from that community never had a chance to visualize themselves in those books. So that's why I think it's so important to just push those narratives out there and just be like, hey, like, look, there's this huge window of opportunity for authors to incorporate this into their books, and giving more people a chance to feel like they're human, at the end of the day, because that's what we all are, right? Like everyone just needs to feel, like Jake says, everyone needs to have a story they can see themselves in. And for so long, people from the LGBTQ plus community didn't have that. And I can see myself in stories, right? Whenever it's like a straight heterosexual thing, right? Relationships. Why can't people that I'm close to or people in my life not have that? Why are those stories being silenced? Why can't they have that too? Like give them something. That's why I just think it's so important. I don't know. And plus they're fun. Like it's just another perspective, right? I don't know. I can keep going on forever.
And that's why I love having you on those shows. So there you go.
I can keep talking.
No, I absolutely agree. I think it's so important for anyone, as you said, right? No matter how they choose to live for their life, for them to be seen by the world. And for someone, to your point, who is straight, heterosexual, however you want to phrase that, to see that other side too, because it helps us understand where this other group is coming from, what their experience is, and helps us be more open-minded and helps us be an ally to them too, right? So we understand what have you been going through and all that kind of stuff. And for me, since I grew up in Germany, which has a different perspective on the LGBTQ community to what I've seen here in the US, it's getting better on both sides, right? But I grew up seeing that as normal. I've been on pride parades in young years. Like my mom has taken me to pride parades that we had in Berlin every year with great costumes, with great music, and it was just a lot of fun. She took me when I was old enough. She took me to parties where everybody and their neighbor was there, and it was usually big LGBTQ parties that we had just a lot of fun there. And then my first job, half of the people I worked with were gay or lesbian or whatever, and it was just
normal.
So in my head, it's just part of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came here to the US, I heard stories also from colleagues who fall into that community or who are part of that community. And I've heard stories where it was just sitting there crying because it couldn't believe that people would be treated. They're people.
Yeah.
But the way they were treated while growing up was just I cannot believe it that something like this happened. So yes, it's super important that this is part of books, that it is normalized, that we have access to those experiences, even as not falling into that community, that we have access to that experience and understand what's happening and understand what they're going through so we can help at the end of the day. Whoa, definitely. I'm getting serious all the time. All right. But yeah, that's why I am now also actively looking more for books that have these topics in there and for authors that fall into this community, because I think you can just learn so much from them. And then at the end of the day, yeah, it makes the story more colorful. It makes the story a lot more enjoyable if you have everything part of it.
It's just a whole different perspective, you know, and it's another lived experience, right? Like people, like whenever I read stories about maybe from like Asian authors, right? It is different from my culture, right? Or even when it's, you know, I identify a lot with books from Latinos because that's how I grew up, right? And so I see myself very prominently in that. But it's always fun to see books by, you know, authors that we're going to be talking about today. They're just great stories, you know, and it's a different perspective, and it really shifts the way that you think about different things. Like even books where they talk about, you know, like microaggressions and all this, or even the different ways that they are attracted to other people. Like it's interesting and it's cool and it's fun and it's you learn so much too, you know, and it's because it's a different experience from what I may be used to, right? Or my worldview, the way that I see the world, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's why I love these discussions, because we can just talk about all these different ways that our perspectives shift, you know?
Agree. Well, and I think it also, so one of the things that I've learned generally when you talk not just about the LGBTQ community, but all underrepresented groups, it's if you start picking up books that have that representation in, you are educating yourself. You're not putting it on that other group to explain to me why I should be, you know. So I think that's also a very important book. Okay, but let's talk about books. Let's talk about the books. I know you you already said that you put big stacks on your side with all the books that you want to share, that you love, that are from authors or have that representation in there. So who wants to start? Who wants to share their first book?
Yes. Okay, so I actually have an author to talk about. She has 2 books out, and that is Lila Lee. Her first book is I'll Be the One. It's about this plus-size girl who wants to be a K-pop star, but because of beauty standards, she's really looked down upon, and she enters into, like, she lives in California, I think, and she enters into like a K-pop competition. And both her and the other main character are bisexual. And then she has another book that just came out called Flip the Script. It's about a Korean American girl who moves to Korea to become like a K-drama actress. And there are 3 main characters, and one of them is pansexual, one of them is bisexual, and one of them is a lesbian. And it's kind of about like challenging the norms of society there and how LGBTQ representation is looked at there. And I love like K-pop and K-dramas, so both of these books are right up my alley, and they're super cute. So, and they also kind of just are joyful and hopeful that things can change for the better. And they're both YA.
Love that. It sounds so cute. I really love that. One of my books is YA, and it's pretty popular. But I feel like with the YA genre, just to kind of add on to that, I think Let me start over. I feel like I see more of it in YA. There's this shift in like YA books where it's more out there. And I think that's really great to see, that books for younger people is like promoting this individuality and with that representation, because it's like, aren't these the people that are going to be shaping our future? Shouldn't they be identifying within these books and be proud and just happy that, pursuing their dreams and stuff? I just love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
If it's not Heartstopper. Okay, so one of the ones that I was gonna talk about was Heartstopper. I know I'll be very brief because I know people already know all about it, and the show is really cute.
I haven't read it yet, so go at it. Tell me.
So with Heartstopper, I really enjoyed it because it just shows this genuine friendship transformation into a relationship. And while it's so cute and adorable because it's just, it's a friendship, there's this push towards trying to understand one another and learning from each other, and trying to see, like, for example, I believe because it's Nick and Charlie. So Nick is the one that he's trying to figure out his own sexuality, and trying to figure out his feelings, right? And trying to see why he feels this way. And these are new feelings for him. But he's just really drawn to this person, and he doesn't understand why. And him trying to figure that out while also supporting Charlie, who's already out, who's been forced to be out, who's been outed by other people. Like there's two different perspectives here, and it's just so cute to see them come together and really support each other and like lean on each other. It's really adorable, and I really love it. Another one. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I agree with all of what you said.
So another one that sort of bounces off of that is another popular book that was not too long, came out a couple years ago, and that's this one, Red, White, and Royal Blue, right? So I love this book, mainly because I just thought it was so fun. It was hilarious. I was laughing out loud, but also there's like that serious side. Again, trying to interpret one's sexuality, trying to figure it out, right? Trying to figure out why they're having feelings for the other person, right? There's that theme in there, while also just being fun. Like I remember there's like this scene in here where they're like in a New York City bar and they're just having a good time. And I was just like, this just reminds me of like my early 20s. That's how it is. You go to the bar and you're a hot mess dancing on tables. And I just had like the biggest smile on my face reading this book. I really loved it. It's smart. It's funny. Has its serious points too, where, we're talking about like paparazzi and its effect on people, right? And trying to live your life privately, but in mainstream too, and it kind of touches on that. And I really enjoyed this book.
This is one of that book and Boyfriend Material, which falls for me into the same category.
Yeah.
They are both on my I really want to read this list. So
yeah, it's a really good one. I really liked it. I read it so fast too. And it's like a chunky romance. It's pretty chunky for a romance, and I flew through it because it was just so much fun, and the scenes where they're getting intimate with one another, I was like, really feeling it. I was like, this is good. Yes. But one that's a little more serious, and it's one that I will not stop talking about this book because I read it in February and I just think it's so good. And that's Don't Cry for Me by Daniel Black, right? Now, the perspective is a little different with this one because this one is written in the format of letters. And this one is from the perspective of a father to his estranged son, who just so happens to be gay. And the way that he is sort of telling his life story to his son, because he's like dying of cancer or something, right? He's on his deathbed. He's writing letters to his son. And he's trying to explain his worldview to his son, trying to make sense of the way that he treated him because of the toxic masculinity that's been ingrained in him for his whole life, right? And it's sort of, you see people from the other side, right? Of the other side of the aisle, the other whatever you feel the other side is, right? And you're like, I cannot fathom or understand why you feel the way that you do, why you think the way that you do. Because to me, it doesn't make sense, right? But for some people, I feel like this book really tries to capture that, of like trying to make sense of why a parent would treat their son that way, while not saying that it's right, because I feel like he's processing it and he's trying to make sense of the way that he is, and he's feeling the repercussions of his actions because he doesn't have a relationship with his son, right? And he's trying to make sense of that while also trying to be apologetic, but trying to understand why he had those worldviews. And I think it was so interesting. The most unlikable character, the most unlikable character, and I was hooked on this book. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it's so good. And I think everyone should read it. I think it's phenomenal.
Does the book then go into, because I think it's interesting for someone who thinks about coming out and who knows where the parents are a little bit more, traditional, quote unquote, in that regards. Does the book address then how, like, hey, how can you work with your parents who have that other view on helping them explain your view, that you get like both sides and get to an alignment versus a family splitting apart?
Sort of, because I don't think it really goes much into like how to help it. It's more of like seeing the repercussions of his actions and how it has affected his relationship. And I think in that you can kind of see where it like shapes, or it can be like the lesson, you know what I mean? Like the lesson that people can learn or take from it, because obviously like he's feeling the consequences of his worldview, and he's also seeing where that derived from and how abnormal that was too. And so seeing that his own worldview may not be all it's cracked up to be, I think in that is where we kind of get that perspective, or that lesson, right, of the book, right, the point kind of, right. And I don't know, I just I really loved it, and I want to read it again because it really just highlights that disconnect between the parents, but also his disconnect with his family too, like the father, and like why he thinks the way that he does. And it really tries to bring this sort of empathy towards the father while also not like you understand, but you don't agree, and you want to push that idea of like, maybe we can change that, or maybe how can we go forward, how can we repent, right, or make up for it, kind of thing. And I don't know, it's just really good. Maybe I'm not making
Nope, I understand.
But the last one I want to talk about real quick, and it's a short story collection. I already have the other one pulled up, but it's called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Philyaw. And this is a short story collection. And the whole book just focuses on the love lives of Black women, and whether it be within the umbrella of LGBTQ+A or heterosexual. I think just that the way that they're able to talk about relationships with between Black women, it was so good too. 5 stars. I loved it. I want to reread it. But I'll let no, up here. I know, I'm like, where am I pointing? But yeah, I'll let you share some of yours because we have a whole lot of books.
Yeah, this deck is big, but I actually forgot one in my preparation, talking about fiction. So if we stay in the broad fiction realm, specifically romance, that is one that I just read. It's The Charm Offensive by Alison, I'm probably pronouncing this right, Cochrane? I'm not sure. It's a newer book, 2021, I think, released. And it's a male romance. And it's basically a story in the Bachelor universe. If you know that dating show, The Bachelor, this dating show is called Happily Ever After or just Ever After. And it's about their Prince Charming who has to date 20 women and then find, his fiance that he then marries. And he has a producer that is working with him because he's actually super nervous and he's always awkward in social situations. And he's just doing that show to improve his view of him because he's a big tech person. Like he was a CTO in a big important tech company. And because he is so weird in social situations, no one wants to hire him anymore. So he thought, right, it would be a good idea to do this show to improve the view people have of him. And then his producer is trying to make sense out of this person and trying to market him in that show and make him usable, quote unquote, for that TV show. And yeah, it's also a lot about, and then obviously, male romance, where this is going. But what I thought was really interesting is similar to what you were just saying about the book where they're realizing realizing their feelings and heartstoppers, where they're realizing their feelings and realize, hey, I'm loving a man. I don't love women. I love a man and I prefer men over women. And it was just really well done, I thought, how his thought process and how he realized that, okay, I'm in love with my producer and I really want to be near him and I just appreciate him for the person he is. And I had tears, all the emotions, crying, being happy and everything in between. It was just so well written. And I read this in one day, essentially. Like I read a chapter in one evening and I was like, okay, if I don't stop right now, I will not be able to sleep. And then I read it in the next day and it's adorable. It's amazing. The characters, like the main character, Charlie, is just, I just want to hug him all day long. He's amazing.
I love that.
So that is one of the books that I want to talk about. And now I need to find a stack that will not fall over when I'm putting it on. And then I picked up a bunch of fantasy books because, I love fantasy. And I want to start with Black Sun, who was one of the, it was one of the first books that I've read after my big reading slump when I started reading again in 1.5, 2 years ago. How old is this book? 2021? Well, anyway. And what I thought was really interesting, I didn't know that at that point, that book is using specific pronouns for non-binary people. It's using the, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, je or gem kind of pronouns. It's spelled XE and XEM and whatever, all the ones that belong to that. Yes, thank you, Stacy. That's the first time I'd seen those pronouns and I had to look it up and was super fascinated by that. And I think in general, how Black Sun is treating non-binary people and related pronouns is really well done. And I really loved how she incorporated it again as it's just normal. That's just how that world is. And, nothing is frowned upon. And this is just how the world is. And there's a similar book. It's called Hands Like Secrets, which I only have. Let's see if we can get that without it on the screen here. There's a book that has a similar, they don't use the je and jir, again, apologies if I'm pronouncing this wrong, pronouns. But they use the they, them pronouns and they have non-binary people. And that Hands Like Secret, what I really liked about it is it's a school setting, it's a magical school setting, and the way the dorm rooms are separated is groups of same-sex attracted people versus opposite-sex attracted people. So people who share a dorm room either are both women if it's opposite-sex attracted, or both men, right? And if the same-sex attracted, you have non-binary people in there, and you have like women and men if both are attracted to women, as an example. And I thought it was just a really interesting concept of setting it up this way.
Yeah, that would make sense,
then,
right?
Yeah, right. So in both books, yes, Black Sun was amazing. I'm not reading Favorite Star right now because I want to wait for book 3 and then I want to binge all 3 books together. Black Sun is, I mean, in general, as a fantasy book, it's amazing, but also because of the representation, I thought it was really great. I don't know, sorry if you want to add anything on Black Sun since you have it too.
No, that was my main standout, and I think can't remember her name. The main character, kind of, that we follow, I think is bisexual also.
Names. Jala, yep. Yes, she is.
That's one that I really, really want to read. I think also because isn't it like sort of native, like a Native American kind of fantasy, like pre-Columbian?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's like that's like interesting because the majority of other fantasies is more like, Western European medieval type fantasy, and then you see one over here where it's different. Yeah. I love that. I gotta pick that one up.
It's really good.
So many books to read. Story of our lives.
Let's go there. But Black Sun is one that is worth it, really. It's such a, just in it itself, I mean, the fact that it has a whole bunch of representation, but just the story in itself, the character work is amazing in this book. Like the way she set up the, 3 or 4 main characters with Giala, then the non-binary person, the blind person that has to fulfill a prophecy. It's mind-blowing that it's so ingenious the way the story is told and what she all pulled. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. And what I like about Black Sun and both Hen's Like Secret and Black Sun is it's normalized. Like the non-binary characters, bisexual, gay, lesbian, whatever, it's normal in that society that both authors built, which I really prefer, versus if you look at, I don't know, Grace of Kings, which I also have somewhere there, I'm pulling it not down right now, or Ruin of Kings, which I'm also reading at the moment. It's included, but it's not normalized. It's like, okay, people of the same sex, they get together and they're couples, but it's frowned upon and it happens in secret. It's like more that type of society, which is why I prefer Black Sun and Hen's Like Secret over that. I mean, I appreciate it if you include it anyway, right? Because again, life, that's what it is all about. But if you include, I prefer a normalized version of that versus frowned upon, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
I don't know if you guys have read it, because I haven't read it either. Because I think that's sort of similar. I hear that like the normalization of different, sexualities and identities. What is it? The Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. I think that's one of the things that they say about that one. I could be mistaken. I don't know. But I think that it just reminded me of that. So I'm thinking if I'm making a connection, maybe that's what it is. But I think The Unkindness of Ghosts, I think this is like a sci-fi book too. This guy right here.
Yeah, I see the picture.
So I think they have that sort of thing too, where it's like the different identities and sexual, it's just normal, right? Yeah. I could be wrong. If someone in the comments has read it, I haven't read it either. It's been on my TBR for forever. But I think that's one of the things that it's identified there too. I don't know. But like you said, that just seeing it as something normal, it's something that I wish we can all aspire to in real life, because to me, it's not that big a deal. If you want to be identified, if you want to use your pronouns as they, them, I have no problem. Cool. Yeah. I have no problem. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but people are making it such a big deal, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. We have Foundry Side is one of those books that I really want to give a try, especially with book 3 just came out or coming out soon. And then The Band. That's a book probably that I will never read. I know, Jake, I'm sorry. And then Stacy, I'm sorry. But interesting to know. I didn't realize that The Band also has representation where it is normalized. That is good to know.
Love that.
Gay characters in both. That is great. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, Founder Site. Hang on. My list is getting...
I know. I keep writing these books down too.
While I'm typing, Sarah, do you want to share another book?
Yes. So another one where it's normalized is The Bone Shard Daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this one, there are 2 side characters that are lesbians, and they're kind of like in ruling. They rule, sort of, or are in the position to rule. And there's, like, I feel like in other fantasy books and, like, historically, it would be like, well, what are you going to do about an heir? And in this one, it's just like, well, we can just adopt one. Like, there's not even a question. Like, it's not even a problem. Like, it's just normal for a same-sex couple that is ruling to adopt an heir. And that's one thing I really love about it. And also the magic in it is just really cool.
Oh, my God. Yes.
That's always a plus.
Have you read book 2 yet, Sarah? The second one?
I didn't like it as much, but I'm hoping it was good.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's why she delayed book 3, hopefully to fix some of the things. I feel book 2 was rushed to get out.
Jake's a fan.
Jake hasn't read book 2 yet, though. So, Jake, here's your monthly reminder for reading book 2.
Here's my extra reminder. I haven't read it yet. So many books.
Book 3 comes out in, that's next week, isn't it?
Oh, look at that.
Oh, my goodness. Need to get around Bone Shard. It's sitting on my shelf. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Is Jake coming up to Canada to visit you? Yes, you're slacking, Jake. I love it.
So they are so cute.
Oh. I was like, I totally forgot about Bone Shard Daughter. Yes, I loved that part of the story. Like Bone Shard Partner has so many POVs that are all, there's so much going on there. But that particular point of view was amazingly well done, I thought.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. One more on my side. I will keep mentioning that is going to be my new green writer. It's called Where Shadows Lie by Allegra Pescatora for many, many reasons. So yeah, and I can't have a video without talking about green writer. So here's my green writer mention. If you loved the way that story is told with amazing main female character with flaws and, growth throughout the story, this is very similar. So I'm in the middle of book 2, which book 2 is Whispers in Stone. Sorry, this one here. That's where I'm nearly done with. I wanted to finish it yesterday, but then I fall asleep. Sleep.
That's a nice cover.
Oh, these covers are amazing. This was the original cover, so the new cover looks actually very different.
Mm-hmm.
So the main character, Eleanor, and I just remember the main name because I'm currently reading it, is not only bisexual with a female partner that she has, she's also disabled. So you have 2 representations in that book, and it's amazingly well done. First of all, it's a main character that we're working with, not, a random side character that kind of just appears on the side, but it's a main character. She is the ruler of that world that we are in. And she goes through so much stuff and also has a lot of growth over the 2 years, over the 2 books. And this is also more on the epic side fantasy, but with a modern twist to it. So they swear a lot in those books. And you have, it's called gaslight fantasy or something, I think is what she calls it. But you have a medieval setting with castles and whatnot, but then you have showers in there. And magic-driven lights, you can turn on a light. It's just not electricity; it's magic. They're dragons and they're adorable. If you love Mephi and Bone Shard Daughter, you will love the dragons in here. And it's just so well done that the main character has a lover, is what they're calling it, and everybody's just okay with it. There you have the hair discussion, though. So she has to marry eventually and produce a hair. So compared to Bone Shirt Daughter, you have that in that book. But no one has issues with her just, dating a woman and being with that woman since high school and whatnot. And it's just an amazing story with a lot of topics that are discussed in a very well manner, a lot of political intrigue. And I want to decapitate a lot of those people. They're unbelievable, and a lot of emotion too. So it's really, I love it. It's going to be a new favorite. Definitely.
Bouncing off that, like you said that they just called her the lover. You know how like in people from other, I believe like in the UK, like they call their spouses, regardless of their sex, they call them their partner. And I think that's so cool. Like, why do we have to have like this, my husband? I know I do it a lot. I'm like, oh yeah, my husband says this. Oh, my husband says that. Or like, whatever. Like, oh, I did this with my husband. Like, can we just switch to like my partner? Like,
which sounds a lot better than significant other.
Yeah, right. I really love that. Like, I think who does it? Leanne from Leanne's library, or I think she put Loopy Library now. I don't know. I think she changed it or something. But yeah, she refers to her spouse as her partner, and I love that. I'm like, why can't we all just do that? I think that's such a cool way to like, because at the end of the day, they're your partner, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna just start doing it. You hear that, husband?
All right, Stacey. Well, I bet you talking about Jake now as your partner too going forward. July 26th. Yes. Well, yeah, that's a good idea, given that Stacey took so many books the other way around, so it's likely going to happen that way.
Books are heavy. Like, you're putting them in a suitcase. I hope they're in your carry-on. You're gonna get charged.
Yeah. Oh, barely used books. Okay, now I'm getting it. Barely used books because they have a bear as a mascot.
Oh, nice. That's cute.
Only in Canada, people. Only in Canada.
I love that. Oh
my goodness.
That's so
you should leave room for Stacey in your suitcase too, just in case you want to take her with you.
Go back.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
They're so
all
cute.
Right. I have a couple of more books, Sarah. How about you?
I have a couple more too. Okay, I'm going to go through some of these fantasy ones really fast. So I have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. It has I made notes so I wouldn't forget, it has a bisexual character, a gay character, and also a trans character, which I feel like we don't see very many trans characters in fantasy, and I would love to see more. And then I have, whole stack's going to fall over, The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This has two, I believe they're both lesbian main characters set in an Indian-based fantasy setting. And I also have
getting longer.
I love it.
The Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This one has a main sapphic romance, and there's also a male-male romance in there as well. And there's dragons.
Dragons are always
yeah.
If you have dragons, it's an automatic buy.
Yeah,
automatic.
And then I have The Rise of Kyoshi. This is a prequel to the Avatar: Last Airbender TV show. Both of the main characters are bisexual, and there's a sapphic romance in here. What else do I have? I have The Long Way to the Small Angry
Planet.
I want to read that.
This also has gender neutral pronouns that are not they, them, and just a bunch of like so many different inclusive things, just like characters, different sexualities, different gender identities, different everything.
Yeah. Becky Chambers in general, right? It's The Small Angry Planet, then the new one with the monk robot. I'm blanking on the title right now. And then the other one with the Taught to Be Fortunate, something very similar.
I've just read the whole series for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stacey, you and me both. Yes, pretty much everything Sarah just said.
And by the way, Sarah, I saw that video that you did where you gave Pride Month recommendations. I thought that was so good. There were so many great recommendations in that video.
Thank you. And I tried
So
not
good.
to pick any for today that were also in that video. So
Yeah, that was a great video. So
you.
many.
Sarah's
I
videos
listened
in
never-
general are great. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe to her if you haven't. Her videos are great.
Yes.
And her Instagram is great too. Go to the Instagram thingy too.
Thank you.
There's been so many great videos coming out this month too, with so many great Pride book recommendations.
Yeah.
I think one that is just reminded me of this. The channel is called he's my favorite booktuber too. He's one of my favorites. And it's Ink and Paper blog. And his name is Russell.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's always got so many great recommendations on it. I feel like every book that he recommends that he loves and I read it, I'm like, I love it too. We're just the same person. But he put out a video. It just reminded me of that. He also gave one with like Pride recommendations and it was really great. There was a lot of really great recommendations in that one too. So
yeah.
I'm just loving all the recommendations. My list will never end.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then we have Stacey's The Tiger Starter, The Unbroken, and Crier's War.
Oh yeah, I heard about Crier's War. Yep. That one's like a big one with really great rep on that one.
I didn't love the second one, but the first one was good.
Oh, sorry, I'm writing this out because I need to get this on the description later. All right. I have, one more that I wanted to mention just briefly. Also Self-Pup again. It's the Dead Rockstar series. There's book 1 and 2 is out. Book 2 is called The Wolf Den. Also indie published. Is it called indie published? I think so. I always mix up self versus indie published. Anyway, self-published. Let's just go with that. And this is also with bisexual representation and main characters, and just a great paranormal story of a woman that all of a sudden is awakening an 80s rock star that all of a sudden then, comes out of his grave and is alive again, and she then has to deal with the aftermath. And it's set in a more southern setting. She lives in a trailer, so her whole life situation is very different than what you usually have in paranormal. And it's just fun characters, also a lot of swearing. And I ate those 2 books up as well. Also, the cover is awesome.
That's a dope cover.
Yes.
That cover is
highly recommend that one.
Love that.
When you find your book taste.
Yes. I'm telling you, every time I read one of those books that he recommends, I'm like, I love it. Love it. I think that like every single time, like I know I'm going to love it.
A History of What Comes Next. Ooh, also one of the books that I want to read at one point. Yeah. Sylvain Novelle is also an author that I really like. The Test. It was a short story that he wrote about a British citizenship test. So messed up, unbelievably. But A History of What Comes Next is one of the ones that I want to read too. Yes, very good. Wait, I need to write this down again. The list is way too long already. Jesus. Okay. And then books that I want to read. Mm-hmm. Sorry, now I need to go into a different book stack. So there is another Roman story, Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is about her going back to her little suburban family life, and she is meeting one of her old friends that she realized she always loved. That's a female-female relationship here. That she, they went different ways, but when she sees her again, all the feelings come back up, and it just sounds like a great story. And then another urban fantasy. Did I say paranormal and Dead Rockstar? I meant urban fantasy. Whatever. Urban fantasy is Seer from the Green by Lauren Jankowski. And Lauren is an author who I met at WonderCon 2022 just recently, which was here in LA. And also self-published. It's currently 5 books out, but she is writing more books in the series. It's about shapeshifters. And she is an advocate she herself is asexual and aromantic. And she is a huge advocate for that. And I have to read the author stuff. She founded the Asexual Artists, which is a Tumblr and WordPress site dedicated to highlighting the contributions of asexuals identifying individuals to the arts. And she is, I like her, like I follow her on Instagram too. And I really like what she does with like cosplay and costuming and talking about pride and supporting the community in general. And I'm really excited about reading her books as well, which I think also is either bi or lesbian main characters or asexual main characters. One of those. I forget. I apologize. But very excited about reading that one. Yes, the test was amazing. It's a short story. It's really a quick read. Yeah. Totally messed up though. Although there's no rep like LGBTQ rep, TQ rep in there, but messed up. And then the other one, the other author that I want to read, that I also met at WonderCon, is Alice Johnson, and she wrote a 4-book series. It's like horror, fantasy, and historic stuff in there. So this is set in England in 1700 something rather. And it's kind of like a very dark, eerie sounding series, and they're all rather short. Like all 4 books are pretty short, and the covers are just, I mean, I'm dying of the covers.
Yeah, that's a cool cover.
Yeah. It's book 3, like a female relationship in here, and that's the 4th book, the last book that also just came out. So she just published that. And then she also wrote Seeds of Truer Natures, which is vampires meeting the Medici. Like, what?
The Medici, like the Italians?
Yes. It's
oh, cool.
In Italy. So it's a year ago, Adrian and Magnus walked out of the dungeons of their king Gabriel, but his renewed favor is tenuous. Now they have an opportunity to make amends for good, to steal a book Gabriel desires from Lorenzo de' Medici, the most powerful man in Florence, on the condition that they do so without being detected. And I forgot the names. I just read them and now I forgot them again. Adrian and Magnus are vampires. So
nice.
this show sounds too messed up to be not good. All right, we have another recommendation from Jake. Picture of Dorian Gray. Yep.
I have that up there somewhere. I have it ready. I need to read it. That's another one I can pull down and be like, I need to read this one. I'll go through a quick list real quick. I won't spend too much because I feel like a lot of people know these books. Obviously, Song of Achilles. I still haven't read it. This is the UK cover. I think it's so cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you know, story of Achilles and Patroclus in the Trojan Wars. I've read the Iliad like a lot because of like school and stuff, like high school, college, grad school, like everyone's read the Iliad, the Odyssey, right? But I really love like those retellings where they use that story because I think at the end of the day, it's still a really interesting story. And so I'm really excited to get to this guy. I don't know when I'm going to be emotionally prepared to read this next one.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I need to pick this one up soon. I don't think I see a lot of people do like those vlogs of like reading this one. And I'm like, I'm not like a pretty crier. Like, I won't do that to myself.
We won't have a crying vlog, no?
No. Okay, and another one, The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. So this one is about 2 slaves. This takes place during the time of slavery. And it's about 2 slaves that they fall in love and how they're, 2 men, and how their relationship affects people on the plantation. So not only for them, but, the people around them too. So I think this will be really interesting. So definitely on my list. And a recommendation from Russell, Ink and Paper Block.
That's probably also not an easy read.
No, yeah, definitely. I feel like that's another one where I don't know what it is. I all these books that I'm like, I know it's going to get me in the feels. And I'm like, I love it anyways. Just give it to me. Because speaking of, So Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And it's about 2 fathers, ex-cons, who team up to get revenge on the people who murdered their sons who were in a relationship with each other. I believe they were married. I don't know. But yeah, it's like a revenge story. It's giving me Taken vibes. I will get revenge kind of thing. So this is another one that I'm like, yes, I need to read. And then one that I learned about yesterday. So my library, they have like every month they have this edition. It's so beat up. It's like a book page. It's just like recommendations, you know what I mean? Like book reviews and all that. And then yeah, Raise to Play Tears. I heard so many great reviews about Raise to Play Tears. I feel like everyone that's read it just loved it. Like I haven't heard anything bad about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really excited to read this one. But this one, it's on the more fluffier side, and it's called Queer Ducks.
What?
So this one, I think it's a nonfiction book, and it's called The Natural World of Animal Sexuality, Queer Ducks and Other Animals by Elliot Schrafer. And it sounds so good. He pretty much, to kind of wrap it up in a nice little bow, he talks about different animals and how we can see homosexual relationships within the animal kingdom and how it's actually not that weird. Right? Yes. But I highlighted a couple things because I thought it was really cool, the way that he kind of broke it down. So the person interviewing the author said, "What inspired you to make the leap to nonfiction?" And he wrote, "I'm in animal studies, Master of Arts program at New York University. And part of that coursework has been reading the long tradition of writers who have dared to question the assumption that humans are the pinnacle of creation. My fiction has long explored what bonds us with the natural world, but I haven't really considered working on a piece of nonfiction that would do the same. Then I happened across a burgeoning research into same-sex sexual behavior in animals and realized how much of a young Eliot, the author, would have loved to have heard about that. That's when I knew I had to write Queer Ducks." And then he says, same-sex sexual behavior has been confirmed in more than 1,500 animal species. And in the book, he focuses on 10 representative animal species, and each chapter kind of tackles an important research question. And he goes on to say, "I've grown up now and doing fine, but the thought that I might be able to help another young person feel like they are a natural part of the world, after all, was a big part of my inspiration." I thought that was great.
That is amazing. And it goes to, I love that he's doing that. First of all, yes, it's probably more fluffy than Razor Blade.
Yeah, I know. It's like really great.
But I'm loving that he phrases it this way because it goes about all the, hey, this is unnatural, quote unquote, right? Conversation, which really it isn't. And even if you go further, I mean, you have sexless animals that can take on any sex depending on, like, snails, right? You don't have sex in snails. I think that is amazing. I definitely, oh God.
Yeah, I just learned about that yesterday, and I thought it was like perfect to bring up for this because I read to my daughter and Tango Makes Three, right? About the penguins at the is it the Central Park Zoo? I don't remember. But with my daughter, like, you know, she's 4. And there's all this outcry about, like, protect our kids. You know what I mean? My daughter thought it was the cutest thing. Like that it was just these 2 parents taking care of a baby. Right. And it just so happened that they're both boys. And she, you know, she didn't think of anything of it. It's normal, right? She wasn't like, why is it 2 boys? You know, it's not supposed to be that way. Like, these are things that are taught to your kids. These are things that, you know, to see these kind of things in the natural world, right? It's just normal. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Don't mess with other people doing it, right? And it's the same thing with animals too, right? Like, you see it in the animal kingdom, so it's perfectly natural to have those kind of feelings. And I don't know, it's just, when I see stuff like this, I'm like, it just totally confirms the way that I'm parenting my child to love whoever you want to love, and you know, you see other people, it's cool, it's not a big deal. Like,
as
it's
long as
just
you are happy. As long as you are happy.
exactly.
Yeah. And you don't hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm. That's always like the thing. It's just like, if it's not hurting someone else, just leave it alone. Like, they're happy, no one's getting hurt. Like, chill out.
It should be a T-shirt. No one's getting hurt. Chill out.
Yeah, there was like a big billboard in New York that was like, if you don't like gay marriage, don't get gay married. Right?
Yeah.
It was a huge billboard. It was great. Loved it.
People. Gotta love people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you have any more books to talk about?
But yeah, I mean, I have so many. Even behind me, I'm just looking. Memorial by Brian Washington. That's another one with like two men. They've already been married, but it's like they're facing that hump in their marriage, right? Of like, should we still be together? Does it make sense for us to be together? But then I believe the one who's Asian, his father is dying, so he goes to visit him and see him. But at the same time, his mother is coming over to visit, and it stays with the husband, who also happens to be Black. So I think it touches on race, it touches on marriage, like long relationships. Like I think it's one of those, like, it touches on those things. So it's another one that I'm like, I want to read it. What about you, Sarah? What are some of your ones?
There's a little stack right here. But first I wanted to mention there is a nonfiction book I read called Sapiens, about like the history of humans, basically. And there's a quote in there.
Yeah.
There's a quote in there that says, "Nature permits, culture forbids." Basically, like saying, because the author is gay, saying that like homosexuality is natural because nature, if it wasn't happening, nature would get rid of it. Like, only culture that forbids it. But anyway, my books that I want to read, I'm not sure if this has any representation in it, but The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories. It is from a team of female and non-binary authors. So I'm excited to read that. It's a bunch of short stories, I believe. And then I also have Servant Mage by Kate Elliott. I don't know what kind of representation is in this, but I saw on Goodreads it was like listed as LGBTQ, so I'm gonna trust that. And Spear by Nicola Griffith. I think this is a King Arthur retelling, but cool. Somehow with LGBTQ representation in it. And
that cover is gorgeous too.
Yeah, so pretty. The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. This one,
we have a read along for that one. Jake will probably let me know, or Stacy, if she's on like that, with Stacy and with Sharon Dwyer. If you want to join that, I forget when. I think in July is when we want to read that. Jake, let me know, please. Please add in the comments when you do that. So if you want to join, because I'm super excited about that one.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this book. And I don't know what kind of representation is in it either, but I think there is some. Then my last one is The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. So I have been reading this author's books. They are translated from Chinese web novels, and they all have male romances in them. So I just finished the first volume of The Scum Villain's Self-Saving System, and I've been reading her other series, Heaven Official's Blessing, which are all about like cultivation, which is a Chinese thing, I don't know, which I never had come across before, but they're super interesting, and the one I just read was like hilarious. So I'm excited to start reading this series also.
Is that like a manga or graphic novel, or is that an actual?
It's an actual novel, though there are pictures in it, like full page pictures.
All right, August for City of Dusk.
Okay.
Yes.
And then also an anticipated release that I wanted to mention that comes out in August, I think, is A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexander Rowland. It is a bodyguard romance, I think. So it is about a prince and his bodyguard, and it's set in some like fantasy world based off the Ottoman Empire, and I'm so excited about it. It sounds so good.
It sounds good.
Alrighty. So I think we all need to move somewhere where we can self-sustain and don't have to work. And the self-sustaining does it on its own, right? So we can read all of these books. Because I mean, are you kidding me? Like this is
it never ends.
no.
And more will come out.
Yes, which is good. I mean, that's what we want, right?
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, in the last years, that not just YA, but even in adult fiction, whatever, you know, whatever genre you want to put it in, that there is more and more coming out with representation, LGBTQ representation. So that's what we want.
I think that's so amazing because there's just so many good stories out there that are just going to be, you know, just showcasing different kinds of people that live differently and express their love differently. And that's what it's just a different perspective. It's not that big a deal. It's a big deal to me in terms of like having people see that, you know, and have so many options. Obviously, look at all these options we have. And I think it's so amazing.
No kidding.
It makes me so happy, to see that, you know?
Oh, all righty. Last call for any more books that we want to mention.
Okay. I have so many. I'm like, I think something that I was going to mention earlier, not only just like the main characters, but, you know, just seeing that in like some of the side characters too, I think it's really cool to see. So for example, I know I brought up Violeta by Isabel Allende. There is a lesbian relationship within the book. It's not with the main character, but it's like a side character. And how it's perceived and how it has affected their lives being in a Latin American country. I think it's something that people don't really talk about too much because there is sort of this bias. You know, with Latino countries, there's like you know, it's pretty culturally conservative for the most part in terms of like the views, because a lot of their stuff is based on like religion and stuff. I mean, even my own, you know, I gotta have conversations with my own parents, you know, about some of their worldviews, you know, in this one generation, right? And it's something that sort of adjusts in Violeta. So I think that's that would be another example. And I know Jake is talking about Elton John's memoir. I haven't read it, but I saw the movie that he did. Was it Rocket Man or something?
Yeah.
It was so good. It reminds me of Bohemian Rhapsody too. That movie. Yeah. With Freddie Mercury, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was cool. But yeah, I started listening to the memoir, and then I was like, "This is the movie."
Okay, I watched it. Wait, did you then just say, "Okay, I watched the movie" rather than
No,
reading
I
the
had
book?
already seen the movie, and then it was like the same thing. It was very similar, and I was like, "Okay." I think something else came up, and so I was like, "I'll just finish it later." But the movie was really cute, though. But
yeah, his life probably didn't change much from movie versus book. Awesome. Anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else related to that topic?
I'll leave it. There's so many.
I wanted to throw out, if we are good with books, I wanted to throw out one thing since we talked about nonprofit organizations earlier. There is one that I hear only good things about and that I know the company I work for is very active with as well. It's the Trevor Project, which is a nonprofit that helps LGBTQ youth when they're in trouble. It's like a suicide prevention hotline, or just if you want to talk, right, you can call them and they just listen and help you and support you. And what they also do for allies, they provide a lot of great material on how to be an ally, and how to do your research and, all those kind of things. So I highly recommend to take a look at that. And if you can, donate as well, because they're doing a really good job in general to support the community.
Love that.
Awesome. Alrighty. Anything else that you want to mention? Anything else before I cut us off and we enter the awkward waving?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I just want to stress the importance of like just reading books that are different from your own perspective. I just think, you just learn so much about other people, and it's so important for people to visualize themselves in these stories. And the fact that we have these, these waves of book challenges and book bans because people are afraid of having these perspectives and these viewpoints shared, I guess it just reminds me prominently of All Boys Aren't Blue, right? About queer. It was a cute book. I really liked it. But, he talks about his life or their life, I should say, because they use the they, them pronouns. The author talks about growing up as a queer book. Really? It's like he sees a squirrel. But yeah, the author just talks about their life and the experiences that they went through. And it's not as if he's making it up. The author's making it up. It's what happened to them. And when you try to take away those access to someone's experience, it's sort of like you're trying to silence them and trying to erase their existence, right? Because you're not allowing them to share what they went through. And I think whenever we see these kind of things, we definitely should talk about it. We should bring more attention to it, because you know what? They become bestsellers after that, right? So I just think, whenever you see these kind of book challenges and book bans, we need to just be very vocal about it and read it more.
Yeah.
Read it more.
Yeah. Talk about it. Yeah.
Talk about it. Read it more. Bring more attention to it.
Yeah.
Because these are people, and they are entitled to their rights to the pursuit of happiness, right? Just like everyone else here. Just because, you have the privilege of being born, heterosexual, doesn't mean that you get to infringe upon the rights of other people that are not. So read it more.
And then talk about it.
Then talk about it. Make videos about it. Be loud.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for stopping by. Thanks, Jake and Stacy, for sharing all your recommendations.
Yes.
You always add so much to these chats. That's amazing. Sarah and Ercy, Sarah, I'm sorry. See, there it happens again. Sarah. And Ercy, thank you so much.
Yes.
Ooh, hang on. Is Medi at Book Browsing? Okay, one great booktuber for LGBTQ reps. Thank you, Stacy. That is amazing. I'll add that to the description as well. Feel free, once this live is over, to add anything else that you can think of on books and authors and booktubers that are great for recommendations to the comments. And then we'll see you soon with the next Reading Across the Shelf episode in July. Bye, everyone.
Yes.
Awkward
Bye.
moving, please.